Welcome to humanity's Vanguard HFY and Sci-Fi stories, where humanity survives the impossible and becomes something more. They thought abandoning their children would humiliate us. They didn't understand what humans do with what they're given. Ambassador Eliza Rowan stood motionless on the observation balcony above Geneva Orbital, watching shadows eclipse Earth's clouds. The alien carriers descended in perfect silence, their hulls matte and ceremonial, not war black. That alone unsettled her. The Karoon did nothing without symbolic intent. Multiple landings confirmed, her aide whispered. Every continental capital. No weapons signatures. Eliza felt the weight settle in her chest. The Karoon Empire had spent decades posturing over human expansion near the Helios Drift. They valued dominance, not compromise. What descended wasn't an invasion, but it wasn't peace either. When the first carrier opened above Nairobi, sensors lit up with thousands of life signs. Small ones, fragile ones, infants. The feed went live across the planet, rows upon rows of alien young, wrapped in sterile cloth, their cries piercing the silence. Eliza exhaled slowly. This wasn't mercy. It was contempt. In Karoon culture, child rearing was menial labor assigned to the defeated. Leaving their offspring with humanity was a declaration. You are fit only to serve. The carriers deposited supplies, crude care instructions, then vanished into full space. No message. No threat. Just children. Eliza didn't look away. They think this shames us, she said quietly. Then they have no idea who we are. They mistook human compassion for weakness. The world fractured for exactly 11 minutes. That was how long it took before humanity decided. Not unanimously, but decisively. Governments argued. Admirals demanded retaliation. Cultural analysts warned of manipulation. None of it mattered once the images spread. Volunteers overwhelmed the networks within hours. Families, doctors, teachers, millions applied. Eliza authorized emergency civilian integration protocols never before activated. The Karoon infants were dispersed across Earth, not into institutions, but into homes. Human homes. In Sao Paulo, a retired nurse learned the subtle rhythm of alien breathing. In Seoul, a robotics engineer discovered the infants responded to music patterns. In Toronto, a single father realized the Karoon young mirrored emotional cues with startling precision. Neurologists confirmed it within weeks. Their brains were extraordinarily adaptive, but underdeveloped by Karoon standards. The Empire's institutional upbringing suppressed growth to forge obedience. Humans did the opposite. They nurtured curiosity. They encouraged attachment. The children learned laughter before language. They learned empathy before hierarchy. By year 5, Karoon developmental markers were already broken exceeded. By year 10, the differences were impossible to hide. These children weren't weaker. They were more. Eliza watched the reports pile up, her expression unreadable. They didn't abandon their children, she murmured. They handed us the future of their species, and humanity accepted the responsibility. 16 years later, the Karoon Armada returned. This time in force. War banners unfurled. Planetary defenses powered up across Earth, but no one fired. The children, now young adults, stood in open plazas, surrounded by the families who raised them. They wore no armor. They carried no weapons. They carried ideas. The Karoon commanders expected disorder. They expected decay. What they found was discipline without cruelty, intelligence without fear, unity without coercion. Tactical feeds showed former infants addressing crowds, translating between species with ease, mediating before demands were spoken. The Karoon High Marshal stared at a display showing one of them, a former foundling, addressing a human-alien assembly with calm authority. They are enhanced, the Marshal whispered. Not biologically. Psychologically. Emotionally. Strategically. The Karun doctrine had been built on scarcity and dominance. Humans had introduced abundance and trust. The result was catastrophic to imperial logic. When Eliza Rowan accepted the incoming transmission, she didn't smile. She simply held up a message transmitted 16 years too late. A single phrase translated perfectly into Karun glyphs. "Thank you for trusting us with your children." Silence followed. Then laughter. Not derision. Recognition. The Armada powered down its weapons. The war never came. Humanity had already won. In the months that followed, the galaxy quietly rewrote its assumptions. The Karun withdrew not only their fleets, but their doctrines. Observers embedded within their core worlds reported something unprecedented: family units forming outside state institutions, caregivers remaining past assigned cycles, children no longer sorted by projected combat utility. The changes were subtle at first, almost invisible, but strategically catastrophic. Karun commanders hesitated where they once obeyed. Soldiers questioned losses that had once been acceptable. Entire battalions froze when ordered to engage human-aligned systems populated by the generation they had once abandoned. Analysts across the spiral arms reached the same conclusion with growing unease. Humanity hadn't just won a diplomatic victory. They had introduced a mimetic weapon, a concept, attachment, empathy, choice. It spread faster than fleets ever could, carried by the 8,000 who now walked effortlessly between cultures, fluent in both compassion and consequence. Eliza Rowan received one final classified report and closed it without comment. Projected long-term outcome: irreversible destabilization of authoritarian species models within 5 centuries. Cause: exposure to human child rearing paradigms. No superweapons. No annihilation events. Just care applied relentlessly, irrationally, and at planetary scale. Humanity hadn't needed to threaten extinction. They had done something far more terrifying. They had proven that domination was optional. That strength could coexist with kindness. That survival didn't require cruelty. And once the galaxy understood that truth, there was no unlearning it. Somewhere far beyond Earth's orbit, alien strategists quietly amended their threat assessments. Humans were no longer classified as aggressive primates. They were reclassified as something far worse: transformational. If you believe humanity's greatest weapon isn't firepower, but resilience, creativity, and heart, subscribe to humanity's Vanguard HFY and Sci-Fi stories. More stories are coming, and they remember us.